Good morning, everybody. We have a higher trade in the grain markets here early on Tuesday morning. It is 6:30 a.m. Central Time. December corn futures up 3 1/4 at $4.75. January soybeans are up 13 1/4 at 10.65 1/2. December Chicago wheat up 6.5 cents at 6.14. December Kansas City wheat up 7.5 cents at 5.60 1/2. December spring wheat up 5 at 5.61. It is election day in the United States. We should probably be prepared for a little bit of volatility across some of these markets, and this probably applies more to markets like the equities, the treasuries, the currencies, maybe the precious metals. I don't think that in any case we're going to see necessarily a fundamental shift. To the grain markets because of this election. Now, the thing that concerns me a little bit is that large speculators, the funds, hold some real big length across this grain complex. When you look at the combined length across the corn, soybean, and SRW wheat markets, combined net fund length of 434,000 contracts across those three markets. That is considered extreme historically. We've only seen that type of length combined across those three markets on a handful of occasions historically. So I guess my only concern in regard to the grain markets is that we get into some sort of situation that presents a degree of uncertainty. The markets in general don't like uncertainty. If you were to get into a contested election or a situation where we don't know the results for several days, that could be problematic, and it could cause large money managers to pull money from these markets. I don't think that's what's going to happen, but I've had a lot of people ask about the election and what might happen, and I think that if there is a risk, maybe that is the risk short term. USDA released its weekly crop progress report yesterday. The U.S. corn crop is 82% harvested, up from 72 last week, ahead of the 69% average. Where you're seeing delays in harvest or places where the harvest pace is behind average, it's mostly in the eastern part of the country to southeastern part of the country, the western half of the Corn Belt, northwest. Most of those areas have been ahead of schedule. U.S. soybean crop is 87% harvested versus 83 last week and 83 on average. As with corn, same kind of deal. Southeastern areas, eastern areas running behind schedule, western areas ahead of schedule. The U.S. winter wheat crop is rated 43% good to excellent. That's up from 41 last week, but still way behind the 54% average. The worst ratings are being seen in your HRW areas in the Southern Plains, Texas, Kansas, Oklahoma, Colorado, Nebraska. We've still got some drought lingering and building in some of those areas. That crop is now 89% planted versus 85 last week and 86 on average. That crop is 71% emerged versus 62 last week and 70 on average. Speaking of the winter wheat crop, I'm looking at the weather forecasts here this morning. And there's a little bit more rain in the forecast for the Southern Plains this morning compared to yesterday's forecast. The problem is that most of it, you're going to see some more rain in Oklahoma and Kansas and parts of Nebraska, but most of it's going to be east. It's going to be the eastern, maybe half of Oklahoma, maybe the eastern third of Kansas, maybe just the southeastern corner of Nebraska. So a lot of these western areas that have been dry are probably going to remain dry the way that it looks. We have another USDA report a week from today. This is the monthly crop production and WASDE report. It will be out on Tuesday, the 10th at 11 a.m. Central Time. We'll start to see some private estimates ahead of that report. FC Stone or StoneX was out with their numbers yesterday. They pegged the U.S. corn yield at 178.9 versus their previous estimate of 179 even. So they came down just a hair. USDA's got the yield at 178.4. They pegged the soybean yield at 52.1, down from their previous estimate of 52.4. USDA is at 51.9. At least one vessel will soon be shipping soybeans from the United States Gulf to Brazil. It's being reported that a smaller ship, 38,000 metric tons of beans, that's about 1.5 million bushels, will be destined for Brazil. Your bigger ships that go to China, the big, what they call the Panamax vessels, hold about twice that. But still, this has kind of been, I'm not going to say it's old news, but we kind of knew that this sort of deal was coming. Brazilian soybean supplies are exhausted. They will have to import some small amounts in order to kind of fill the gap between now and their own harvest in February or March. Looking at the corn market, it's acted well despite the correction. We're back above $4 December futures today. We were able to hold that trend support on the chart, and that trend line continues to rise every day. It's at about 392 today, so that would be your big support level on any sell-off. Funds maintain a big long position in the corn market. It was estimated that funds were net long 208,000 contracts as of yesterday's close. That's an extreme long relative to the last 5 years. Historically, funds had been long a lot more than that back in, say 2010 to 2012. China has been kind of absent from the corn market. There was a flash sale of 204,000 metric tons of corn to an unknown destination yesterday. I suppose that could have been China. You got to keep an eye on this COVID deal. This is still problematic for ethanol, and I know that we haven't talked as much about this recently because the corn market's been strong. But if these lockdowns and restrictions continue, that is not a good thing for ethanol at all, and not for corn demand either. Soybean market is still holding together remarkably well. We kind of broke that uptrend on the chart, but then we've just consolidated, so we didn't see any big sell-off or anything. Brazilian farmers are moving fast. They've almost caught up to the 5-year average in regard to planting after a slow start. Some groups have actually increased their projections for Brazilian soybean production just in the last week or so. The wheat market is acting well. A little bit of relief again for the U.S. Southern Plains. Prices rallied yesterday and traded a little bit higher overnight. One of the stories that's garnering some attention, I discussed this yesterday and I discussed this in a podcast last week. Wheat in China is selling at a discount to corn. The Chinese government has been auctioning wheat at a much quicker pace. There's going to be more wheat fed in China because it's essentially cheaper than corn or on par with corn in regard to prices. So that's a factor that is potentially friendly here, I suppose, for the wheat market. Cattle market was able to shrug off some early losses yesterday. It came up and finished higher in most of these fat cattle contracts. Feeder cattle were mixed, but again off the lows. So we'll see what develops here today. Stock market was higher yesterday. It's higher again today. The Dow Jones is up 420 points ahead of the cash open. The S&P is up 41. The bonds are down. U.S. dollar's down. Crude oil is up $1.24 at 38.05 in the December WTI contract. Gold's up $9. Silver up a little bit. If you'd like some more information, visit my website, www.standardgrain.com. Go to that website, click on Grain Marketing Plan. If you would like to know how I'm marketing grain throughout the year, it's broken down by crop year, and percentage in my email every single morning. That goes out at 6:30 Central Time. There's also a text message service that accompanies that. Check out that service. It's $49 a month. You can cancel it at any time. There's no other obligation. There's no other fee, nothing like that. So certainly check that out if you're looking to see what I'm doing every day of the week. Everyone have a great day. I will talk to you same time tomorrow.